All right, so b is 6, and then c is your constant, which is -4. So make sure you're keeping the signs correct. And then you're just going to take these and you plug it back into the formula. So this says the opposite of b. So the opposite of b is 6. The opposite of b is a -6. Plus or minus the square root of, and then we have b squared minus 4ac. So b is 6, and you say 6 squared. Make sure you put that in parentheses, but it's because b could be negative. Minus 4 times a is 1, times c, which is -4, all divided by 2 times a, and then a is 1. So get -6 plus or minus the square root of, and then let's deal with what's under the radical. So this is called the radicand. So 6 squared is 36. And then a -4 times a +1 times a -4 is a +16, all divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. And then simplifying this, use your calculator if you need to. We have -6 plus or minus the square root of, and let's see what we get. So 36 plus 16 is going to give us 52, divided by, and then 2. All right, one of the things you have to do, remember, is to simplify the radical. So you got to go off to the side and you got to simplify this. So what perfect square goes into 52? So you just try some perfect squares. So 52 is divisible by 4. 4 is a perfect square. So just use your calculator. And so you get the square root of 4 times the square root of 13. So 4 times 13 is 52. And then the square root of 4 is 2 to get 2 square root of 13. And so that's going to go here. So I get -6 plus or minus 2 square root of 13 divided by 2. Now the next thing you want to do is simplify this if you can. So you see -6, 2, and 2 are all divisible by 2. So you're going to say this. You're going to say -6 divided by 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 13 divided by 2. And then reduce, you get -3 plus or minus square root of 13. All right, so that's the work that you're going to do with the situation like number 1. All right, so you have these irrational solutions here. So these are your solutions. So there are 2 of them. So these are your solutions. There are 2, and they're both irrational. Okay, so let's look at number 2. So number 2, let's suppose we had this in number 2. So let's suppose we had, let's see, let's suppose we had 3x squared plus 5 equal 5x. Now, notice that whenever using the quadratic formula, you have to make sure that 0 is on the other side. So in this case, it's not in standard form. So you got to make sure it's in standard form. So standard form is where you have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So you have to bring this 5x over and you put it in descending order. So this becomes 3x squared minus 5x plus 5 equals 0. And so now a is 3, b is -5, and c, your constant, is 5. And we're going to plug it back into the formula. Remember, the formula is this: -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. All right, so the opposite of b, so b is -5. The opposite of -5 is +5. So I get 5 plus or minus the square root of, all right, b is -5. I'm going to square it. Minus 4 times a is 3, times c, which is 5, all divided by 2 times a, and a is 3. And so now simplifying this, we get 5 plus or minus the square root of, now remember this says -5, so -5 times itself is a +25. A -4 times 3 times 5, let's see, that's going to be 4 times 15, which is going to give us 60. So this becomes 25 minus 60 divided by 6. Now 25 minus 60, you get 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 60 gives us a -35 divided by 6. Now remember, The square root of a negative 1, the square root of a negative 1 is defined to be I. So remember, this is not a real number, but we can write it in terms of complex numbers, in terms of imaginary number. And also know that square root of 35 can't be simplified. Can't be simplified. So remember when we did this right here, the square root of 52, the square root of 52 I can simplify. So that's this. The square root of 35 I cannot. So all you're going to do for your answer is this. You're going to say 5 plus or minus I square root of 35 divided by 6. And that's all you can do. There's your answer. All right, so you get two solutions, and they are imaginary. Okay, so imaginary, so they're not real solutions. These are real solutions. They are irrational. So these are real solutions. These are non-real solutions. So whenever you have that imaginary unit, whenever you're taking the square root of a negative number, that's a non-real number. All right, so that's number 2. Let's go and I want to do a couple more, but that's about all I can do with part D, because I want to do a couple of things with the next topic. So I think that really though is that should help you with topic 5 part D. Just make sure you're also looking at the what the work should look like. So I gave you 2 examples on that part. So topic 5 part D worksheet 1, and then there's one for topic 5 part D worksheet 2. So that's the one where you'll see irrational numbers and complex imaginary solutions. So make sure you're using those as well. All right, what I'm going to do now is look at a different topic. So I'm going to go ahead and